The four travelers walked up to the great gate of Emerald City and rang the bell. After ringing several times, the gate was opened by the same guardian of the gates they had met before. "What, are you back again?" he asked in surprise. "Do you not see us?" answered the Scarecrow. The guardian replied, "But I thought you had gone to visit the Wicked Witch of the West." The Scarecrow confirmed, "We did visit her." "And she let you go again?" asked the man in wonder. "She could not help it, for she is melted," explained the Scarecrow. "Melted? Well, that is good news indeed," said the man. "Who melted her?" "It was Dorothy," said the Lion gravely. "Good gracious!" exclaimed the man, and he bowed very low indeed before her. Then he led them into his little room and locked the spectacles from the great box on all their eyes, just as he had done before. Afterward they passed on through the gate into the Emerald City. When the people heard from the guardian of the gates that Dorothy had melted the Wicked Witch of the West, they all gathered around the travelers and followed them in a great crowd to the Palace of Oz. The soldier with the green whiskers was still on guard before the door, but he let them in at once, and they were again met by the beautiful green girl, who showed each of them to their old rooms at once, so they might rest until the great Oz was ready to receive them. The soldier had the news carried straight to Oz that Dorothy and the other travelers had come back again after destroying the Wicked Witch, but Oz made no reply. They thought the great wizard would send for them at once, but he did not. The waiting was tiresome and wearing, and at last they grew vexed that Oz should treat them in so poor a fashion after sending them to undergo hardships and slavery. So the Scarecrow at last asked Dorothy to take another message to Oz, saying if he did not let them in to see him at once, they would call the winged monkeys to help them and find out whether he kept his promises or not. When the wizard received this message, he was so frightened that he sent word for them to come to the throne room at 4 minutes after 9 o'clock the next morning. The four travelers passed a sleepless night, each lost in thoughts about the gifts Oz had promised to bestow on them. Promptly at 9 o'clock the next morning, the green-whiskered soldier arrived to escort them, and 4 minutes later, they all entered the throne room of the great Oz. Expecting to see the wizard, they looked around and were greatly surprised to find no one at all in the room. Suddenly they heard a solemn voice appearing to come from above, saying, "I am Oz, the great and terrible. Why do you seek me?" The voice from the throne declared, "I will now seat myself upon my throne that you may converse with me." They approached and stood in a row. Dorothy started. "We have come to claim our promise, O Oz." "What promise?" asked Oz. Dorothy spoke up. "You promised to send me back to Kansas when the Wicked Witch was destroyed." The Scarecrow chimed in, "And you promised to give me brains." Then the Tin Woodman said, "And you promised to give me a heart." Lastly, the Cowardly Lion added, "And you promised to give me courage." Dorothy assured, "Yes, I melted her with a bucket of water." The voice replied, "Dear me, how sudden." "Well, come to me tomorrow, for I must have time to think it over," said Oz. The Tin Woodman responded angrily, "You've had plenty of time already." The Scarecrow insisted, "We shan't wait a day longer." Dorothy exclaimed firmly, "You must keep your promises to us." The Lion thought it might be as well to frighten the wizard, so he gave a large, loud roar. It was so fierce and dreadful that Toto jumped away from him in alarm, tipping over the screen that stood in a corner. As the screen fell with a crash, they turned their heads and were filled with wonder at what they saw. The Tin Woodman raised his axe and rushed toward the little man, shouting, "Who are you?" The little man replied, "I am Oz, the great and terrible," his voice trembling. The little man Oz pleaded, "But don't strike me, please don't, and I'll do anything you want me to." The friends looked at him in surprise and dismay. Dorothy exclaimed, "I thought Oz was a great head." The Scarecrow added, "And I thought Oz was a lovely lady." The Tin Woodman chimed in, "And I thought Oz was a terrible beast." The Lion expressed, "And I thought Oz was a ball of fire." The little man Oz replied softly, "No, you are all wrong." Dorothy confronts the wizard, questioning his identity as the supposed Great Wizard of Oz. The wizard, Oz, confesses to Dorothy and her friends that he is not a powerful wizard but merely a humbug. The Scarecrow, Tin Woodman, and Lion voice their desires for brains, a heart, and courage, highlighting the wizard's inability to fulfill their wishes. Oz, feeling the burden of his revelation, requests that his friends not focus on his flaws and instead think about their own troubles. Dorothy, curious about the implications of the wizard's confession, asks him if anyone else is aware of his humbug nature. Oz confesses to Dorothy and her friends that he has been deceiving everyone about his true identity. He explains how he has managed to maintain the illusion, admitting that it was a mistake to let them into the throne room. Dorothy, confused, asks for clarification about his appearance. Oz shows the group the secret behind his grand appearance as a great head. He invites them into a small chamber where he points to a large paper head that he created. He shares that this is part of his tricks and leads them to understand how he has fooled everyone. Oz reveals the mechanics behind the illusion of the head. He explains that he hung the head from the ceiling and used a thread to move the eyes and mouth. When Dorothy questions how he produced the voice, Oz reveals that he is a ventriloquist. The wizard, feeling remorseful, admits to the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman about his tricks, including the voice and the illusion of the lovely lady. The Tin Woodman realizes that the terrible beast he feared was, in fact, nothing but a collection of skins, revealing the wizard's deceit. The wizard shows that the ball of fire was merely a ball of cotton that burned fiercely when oil was applied to it, demonstrating his tricks. The wizard, inviting everyone to sit, begins to tell his tale, starting with his origins in Omaha, sparking a connection with Dorothy. As the wizard shares his story about growing up, Dorothy realizes that Omaha is not far from Kansas, leading to a moment of connection. The wizard explains his upbringing and how he became well-trained as a ventriloquist, showcasing his skills that contributed to his deception. "I can imitate any kind of a bird or beast." Here he mewed so like a kitten that Toto pricked up his ears and looked everywhere to see where she was. "After a time," continued Oz, "I tired of that and became a balloonist." "What is that?" asked Dorothy. "A man who goes up in a balloon on circus day so as to draw a crowd of people together and get them to pay to see the circus," he explained. "Oh," she said, "I know. Well, one day I went up in a balloon and the ropes got twisted so that I couldn't come down again. It went way up above the clouds so far that a current of air struck it and carried it many, many miles away. For a day and a night I traveled through the air, and on the morning of the second day I awoke and found the balloon floating over a strange and beautiful country. It came down gradually, and I was not hurt a bit. But I found myself in the midst of a strange people who, seeing me come from the clouds, thought I was a great wizard. Of course, I let them think so because they were afraid of me and promised to do anything I wished them to. Just to amuse myself and keep the good people busy, I ordered them to build this city and my palace, and they did it all willingly and well. Then I thought, as the country was so green and beautiful, I would call it the Emerald City, and to make the name fit better, I put green spectacles on all the people so that everything they saw was green." Dorothy asked, "But isn't everything here green?" The wizard responded, "No more than in any other city, but when you wear green spectacles, why, of course, everything you see looks green to you." The wizard reminisced. "The Emerald City was built a great many years ago. I was a young man when the balloon brought me here, and now I am a very old man. My people have worn green glasses for so long that they believe it truly is an Emerald City. It is indeed beautiful, filled with jewels and precious metals, providing everything needed for happiness. I have treated my people well, and they like me. Yet ever since this palace was built, I have shut myself away and refused to see them. One of my greatest fears has always been the witches. Although I have no magical powers, I soon learned that the witches could perform incredible feats. There are 4 witches in this land, ruling over the north, south, east, and west. Thankfully, the witches of the north and south are good, posing no threat to me, but the east and west witches are evil. Had they not believed I was more powerful than them, they would have likely destroyed me." The wizard continued, "I lived in fear of the witches for many years, so you can imagine how relieved I was when I heard your house fell on the wicked witch of the east. When you approached me, I was ready to promise anything to help you eliminate the other witch. But now that you have melted her, I regret to say that I cannot keep my promises. Dorothy interjected, I think you are a very bad man. The Scarecrow, feeling inadequate, pleads with the wizard, saying, Can't you give me brains? The wizard responds, You don't need them. You are learning something every day. A baby has brains, but it doesn't know much. Experience is the only thing that brings knowledge, and the longer you are on Earth, the more experience you are sure to get. The Scarecrow acknowledges this wisdom, but insists, That may all be true, but I shall be very unhappy unless you give me brains. The wizard studies him thoughtfully. The wizard sighs and says, Well, I'm not much of a magician, as I said, but if you will come to me tomorrow morning, I will stuff your head with brains. I cannot tell you how to use them, however. You must find that out for yourself. The Scarecrow, filled with hope, replies, Oh, thank you, thank you. Oh, thank. The Scarecrow, optimistic about his future with brains, exclaims, I'll find a way to use them, never fear. However, the Lion, feeling uneasy, asks, But how about my courage? The wizard reassures him, saying, You have plenty of courage, I am sure. All you need is confidence in yourself. There is no living thing that is not afraid when it faces danger. The true courage is in facing danger when you are afraid, and that kind of courage you have in plenty. I shall really be very unhappy unless you give me the sort of courage that makes one forget he is afraid. How about my heart? Why, as for that, I think you're wrong to want a heart. It makes most people unhappy. For my part, I will bear all the unhappiness without a murmur, if you will give me the heart. Come to me tomorrow, and you shall have a heart. And now, how am I to get back to Kansas? We shall have to think about that. In a grand and opulent palace, the wizard, who is known to be a humbug, sits before Dorothy and her friends. He tells them that he needs 2 or 3 days to consider how he can assist them in crossing the vast desert. In return for his help, he asks them to promise that they will keep his secret, ensuring no one knows he is not the powerful figure he claims to be. After the meeting with the wizard, the characters retreat to their rooms, their spirits lifted. They agree to keep the wizard's secret, feeling a sense of unity and purpose. Dorothy, in particular, is filled with hope that the wizard might indeed help her return to Kansas, and she resolves to forgive him for his deception if he succeeds.